This episode of Nintendo Expansion Pass is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our family of podcasts, head over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia or search for us on the Patreon app on your smart device. Thanks for helping us build something better. We are coming to you with this kind of show where we are talking about a game that we completed and spoiled. It's not in a book club. It's not in a book club kind of vein, but we're going to be talking about games that came out that we completely played, and we're going to spoil about it. So we're going to kind of talk about the story, some of the characters, and how the game ends. So if you haven't played the games that we're talking about, if you still want to check it out, you can. But if you have played it, give it a listen and let us know what you guys think. But I have a special guest. Okay, everybody, look, we're just gonna probably end up adopting this guest for the Boss Rush Media, as one of our partner families. Everybody from the single player experience and the pro nerd report. Welcome back, Sebastion. Hello, good sir.
What's up? Always glad to collab with y'all. Always glad to be part of the fam. Glad to be here on the show today as well. How you doing today?
I am doing terrific. Excited to actually be talking about this game, which is Hi-Fi Rush. I'm excited to play this. I'm excited to talk about it because I know my phone's going off. So sorry, everybody. I'm a busy person at times. He's
a businessman. He's a businessman, everybody.
Yes. But I am excited to talk about this because I knew people who love this game. Is right now, for a lot of people, it's almost game of the year right now. It's a big nomination. Some people are just like, yeah, this is a perfect 10. But I kind of want to hear from you of what you thought about this game. But before we get into that, Sebastion,
yeah,
what did you think about the Developers Direct from Microsoft?
I mentioned this on the Single Player Experience podcast. I thought the Developers Direct from Microsoft was good, not great. I don't think, besides the shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush back then, I don't think they did anything amazing to make you say, like, oh, I completely changed my mind on a game that I had a idea about. Like Forza, for instance. I don't think anything in that showcase made you say, like, oh, I was on the fence about Forza, and now I'm all in. I think if you were going to play that game anyways, you're still going to play that game. And if that game wasn't for you, because it is not Forza Horizon, it is the straight-laced Forza, where you're basically driving around in just a circle, is the motorsport version, then yeah, that game isn't going to be for you, obviously. So I don't think they convinced people who are on the fence about any of their games. I think there are still question marks about Redfall that a lot of people are concerned about. I think there are questions about Minecraft Legends, which, for better or for worse, I think the people who are going to play that game are still going to play it. And just like I said earlier, and the people who aren't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And, besides Hi-Fi Rush, I think if this game wouldn't have got shadow dropped, a lot of people would have been like, that was just an okay presentation. What did you feel about it?
I definitely enjoyed it. I understand what they were doing with this presentation, breaking everything down. I was kind of disappointed with the Forza part because I'm like, we need a date. Come on, you just can't be saying summer. I'm like, Microsoft, you need dates for your games. But like seeing Hi-Fi Rush and just seeing the animation, and I'm like, oh my goodness, someone is able to make an Insomnia game without actually being Insomnia. Or Insomniac.
Yeah.
Insomniac. And
you
so, so I was excited to see this game. Didn't know nothing about it. People said that it was leaked and stuff. I'm like, where? Because no one knew about this game at all. And so I like that their Developers Direct, how they kind of mix like behind the scenes, how they get the production and everything. and breaking parts down. So I definitely enjoyed it for what they did. Um, and I want to see more. I think they could continue the developers direct if they want to continue to bring like 5 or 6 games, and one of those games be a shadow drop. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Uh, but I think they need to have dates because I think with the developer direct is more for updating what these games of what's going on with the progress, and then like their showcase is just announcing and revealing games that is coming to their platform, to the Microsoft ecosystem. So I think with this developer direct, I think they did a great job just starting off. It wasn't uh big and bold. It didn't get too many people excited, but it was just like for a premiere idea that they want to go with. This was a good presentation. This was a good showing.
I like that. I like that opinion. I'm glad you got excited, and I'm glad you like everything that was shown here was enough to get you excited as an Xbox gamer.
Yeah.
I think one of the cool parts about this, and I know this is gonna cringe you up a little bit, is like each one of these games that they showed were Game Pass games. And for a
Yes.
lot of people, I think that's big because I think if you were on the fence, the Game Pass argument is going to convince you to I'll give these a try, these big tentpole games, because I am already a member of this ecosystem. So, I think it's a decent showing. Like I said, I don't think it's like a 9 or 10 out of 10 kind of showing, but I do think there's a lot to be excited about if you're an Xbox gamer.
Yes. So High Five Rush. Let's get into it
Hmm.
because this game, I feel like it's a new genre, but it's not really anything new. It's just something that was executed very well and everything. So to let everybody know, High Five Rush is a Microsoft exclusive from Tango Works. It's a rhythm action game where you must time the beat to attack enemies that you encounter. You play as Chai, who was aspired to be a rock star, and he has volunteered to be a test subject for Project Armstrong at Vandalay Technologies. Unbeknownst to him, something rests sinister with the project, and after an incident that happens with Chai during his operation, he ends up uh he ends up on a grand adventure he didn't expect. This was released on January 25th for Series S and X and Windows, and like you mentioned, it is available on Game Pass. If you would like to purchase this game, it is 29. I think it's 29.99 for the basic one, 39.99 for the deluxe. So it is what we consider as a budget price title. So um
If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/bossrushmedia, and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support.
to let everybody know, the executive producer was Shinji Mikami on this one. This is kind of like his last game that he's overlooking that we know of before he leaves Tango Works. So, um, this is kind of like this 2D animated hand drawn game until the game actually gets into action, and it's almost like a smooth 60 frames per second. What you'll see on the screen is that there is a 4-4 beat counter that is going on. So the buildings, the grass, the whole environment that you're in, it's just like it's beating almost like a heartbeat, but it's on time. And what you as Chai, as a player, when you're attacking enemies, you have to land on the beat, so you have to time your attacks on it. There's different kind of gameplay ideas that they're introduced later on in the game. But as the gameplay goes, what did you think about it, Sebastian?
I think your analogy at the very beginning was an apt one. I do think there's a lot of tried and true formulas into this game of like things that we've already seen in video
Mm-hmm.
games. But I mentioned this on my written review on the ProNerdReport.com. I called it a game that is like video game version of Soup. because soup is a mixture of a whole bunch of different things that are collaborating together to to make each other better, so to speak. And
Yes,
I feel like if you do soup well, you end up with a result that's almost better than the ingredients themselves. So like I feel like that's kind of what this game is, because it's a mixture between like a rhythm game, an action adventure game, a platformer as well. Like it has some of the elements from like Devil May Cry and Kingdom Hearts and Jump and Jet Set Radio's art style. Like all these like amalgamations of a different different things that we've seen before, just combined into one unique and premier title. I think this game could have got away with being a $60 title, and I think many people would have gone for it. But like this doesn't feel like a budget game at all. This feels like a premium polished game. Well, it does have some repetitive parts, and it does have some parts that I think, probably could have been cut. It feels like a very lean, mean, excellent video game and a good exclusive that we've been lacking
yes,
on the Xbox side of things.
yes. Uh, Um, for me, oh, sorry about that. For me, it was just like, oh, when I seen the action combat, I was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, something that's on beat. And then I was watching the trailer, not the trailer. I was watching like the intro, and even Chai's running is on a 4/4 beat. So it's like
Hmm.
bop, 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 bop. And so you can what I like about the game is that even if you get off a beat, you still are your attacks still matter, but like if you are on beat, there it gets more powerful and you're rewarded with something better. I will say though, and this happens with a lot of rhythm games, is that even though you as a player think that you're on beat, there are sometimes in the game that's considered as a delay.
Hmm.
So even though you're pressing a button on beat because you hear it, the game doesn't register that way. So sometimes your attacks that you do doesn't register right, or your combos will come out right, even though you're still attacking and destroying the enemy in a certain way. What you were trying to do doesn't always get pulled off because in rhythm games, even though you're on beat, when you hear it on the ear, the game doesn't register that way. I had a lot of problems with Elite Beat Ages that way. Is that I'm tapping everything to the beat, but it's not registering because I tap it, but the game recognizes it as a delay. And sometimes you just don't know. That's the problem with even with rhythm having, in a sense, is that it sounds good, but in execution, it just doesn't work.
I,
So
I I think that's a good way to put it, because like I do see a lot of like delays where where it almost made me feel like, man, made me feel like I had no rhythm at first, because like some
right.
of the timing was a little bit off. But for the most part, I felt like they executed well. I don't like some of the timing schemes that they have in this game, because some of
Yeah.
them feel a little weird, and it almost feels like which we saw in like old 360 games, especially when you have to unlock like when you have to like disable a machine and you have to like hit like there's a time mechanic very much like akin to Guitar Hero, where you had to press like A Y B X Y B X Y B A. You to get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that kind of mechanic was like a little tedious at different parts, because you almost had to repeat it like almost like 3 to 4 times during a couple of missions there, and I was just like, okay, we kind of get that, and I feel like that could have been executed a little better. But other than that, yeah, it's a fine game. I do think it has its deficits here and there, but like I really liked that they came out of the gate swinging, because like just like you said, you're running very early into this game. This game comes out the gate with like a lot of momentum behind it. Your character is like it takes like no time at all to get going, to get to the gameplay, to get to the rhythm,
Yes.
to get to like the meat and potatoes of what this game is. And I think this is like a really cool project that sort of came out of nowhere for a lot of us.
Yes. Well, let's get with the characters. Chai, he is your main character, your future rock star. He, happy to go to get this operation and everything. And when you see him, his arm looks broken. So it looks. I don't know if it was, kind of dead, like he couldn't move his arm anymore, or if he
Hmm.
had hurt himself. But he ends up getting replaced with a metal piece. But our main villain, Vale, he somehow was going through Chai's items, and he sees an MP3 player, and he, like, doesn't like stuff like that. He chucks it. um, it starts, traveling and making its way to Chai. And while Chai is laying on, about to get, pressed, had this operation done on him, his MP3 player falls onto his heart, and then he gets pressed. When he everything comes out, the this is kind of part of the comedy. The bed that he's laying on throws him off, and he gets thrown into a fence, falls down and starts rolling like, what's going on? He sees his metal arm, and then he's making his way through. He ends up getting checked by these three robots, and they see that he has his arm, but they also realize that he has a defect inside of him, which is his MP3 player. He gets attacked by one of the robots, and it kind of starts the MP3 player playing off. And when that happens, Chai then starts seeing the world in a rhythm fashion. So
Hmm.
that's how the rhythm part comes. So everything gets beaten. So um, the other character you later meet is Peppermint. She has her cat that once you touch, you guys sync, and it helps you do like special moves and things. Macaron, he's this gentle kind of. I think he's a weapons developer. I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's just general not just weapons. It's like the general R&D scientist for that company.
yes, and then he has his sidekick Cinnamon, but it's spelled CNMN
Hmm.
and everything. And then you have Sika, who was head of security that you end up fighting. Roxanne is, I believe, is like kind of like this other woman that's no, I'm sorry. Roxanne is Vale's mother,
Hmm.
and Peppermint's mother and stuff. Rekka, she's kind of like the guard of it. She's this big looking wrestler. Zenzo, he's head of R&D, which is fire. Um, there's Mimosa, who's this woman. She's kind of like the PR in a sense,
Hmm.
and her battle was very long
It
to get
was
through.
very long. Hmm.
And then you got Rockford, who is this what was Rockford? What was he over? Um,
And they were each over a department because like Rekka was head of Rekka, she was head of production because she was the production girl.
yeah.
And then you had, let's see, Mimosa was head of marketing. I would probably say I if I'm remember correctly, I think she was the head of mm, I can't financing. She was the money person.
Okay.
Yeah, financing.
Because I know Rockford had this beautiful Joe kind of final battle
Hmm.
with it. So he's kind of like the fifth boss
Yeah.
that you fight in the game. So the way that it happens is that you fight Rekka as the first boss, well, actually the second, because you encounter this big giant robot thing that's swirling around with you, and you have to break it down. You go to Rekka. Following Rekka is going to be Zanzo, which his fight is just completely funny. Um, next you fight next you fight Corsica, who ends up being part of your crew later on. Mimosa is like the second. No, um, Rockford is who you fight next, and I think uh, Mimosa is the second one because she's like kind of almost the last boss before you get into Vale and everything. So That's kind of the way that the game goes. It's only like about 10 levels in this game that you go through.
Hmm.
So let's get into these levels. And so before we get into the story, what did you think of what did you think of the levels?
I thought they were creative. Some of them kind of overstayed their welcome a little bit, but I think they were very creative. A lot of what I thought about this game feels like, and you'll kind of see it in the levels, in the level designs. It's like I loved how everything in the game had rhythm and was
Yes.
moving to the rhythm. Like even like the platforms that you would move on, they would all like move to that beat. The lasers that you would have to avoid were all on beat as well. Like everything about this game screamed creativity. You and I mentioned like that the debate is sort of off air of like, would you rather have a game that's creative and innovative, or would you rather have something that's like extremely polished and traditional? And this feels like it's a very good mixture of both, because like it's got so many traditional elements of gameplay in it, like the
Hmm.
platforming. You've seen that in millions of games. The grappling, as far as like you grappling from one ledge to another, like you do in the levels. You've seen that in Batman. You've seen that in Spider-Man. It's like this game does just little things from other games and mixes it in with its level design. This meticulous level design, I like, because each level is very like it's catered to like a very certain theme, and I like that. I like how each level has its own theme, each level has its own like mini bosses and fight patterns in within every level. I really love the way that they have a thought process behind every single thing in this game. And I think like from level 1 all the way to level 10, you saw that. And I
Yes.
will say though, in level like in a couple of levels, I do feel like some parts, like I said earlier, kind of overstay their welcome. Like they could have been shortened by maybe that 15 to 30 minute mark, because some of these are long levels, man. These are
Yeah,
like
they're like about
huge levels.
45-minute levels.
Yeah, these are huge levels. And honestly, I don't remember playing a game with levels that big to where there were so many small, like so many, like there's only 10 levels, so it's like it's not a huge game, but like I don't remember playing a game like this since Halo, as far as like the game, the levels
Mhm.
itself being like extremely long. But I like them. What'd you feel about each level?
I thought they were very creative. I think I just like the levels where there was just simple platforming and stuff, and I'm okay with tricky platforming and stuff. I some of them they kind of had like you gotta get three switches or three keys to open up a door. They have all of that collected down stuff, and I'm like, okay, fine, but it's not needed in a game like this and everything. Uh, I will say there is a level that you are on this train that you're transporting
Oh,
to,
so
and you
fun.
got this like big field to fight and everything. And at the end of it, you just start tumbling down, and then there's like three robots that looked at me like, "Oh, okay."
Okay,
It's
what's
just
going on?
like, right, and it's just like, okay, that's funny, but I'm like, to get there, it was just so long because there's one part where you have to kind of like unscrew parts of the thing so you can make
Mhm.
it, but you're also being attacked, and it's just like, I do not like gameplay with this. I understand that you want me to unscrew something, but you're giving me enemies to distract me, and I'm on a timer. Oh, I do not like that and everything. But I'm like, when it's just like me getting to point A to point B, and I'm doing these cool fights and everything, and using my secondary character to help me with the fight at times. I thought that was really cool. And even though that's like gameplay thing, sometimes like you need to get through a door or something, you gotta call your secondary character to get through. But I enjoyed the parts where, like you said, where you're sliding down and you got this railway that you're just flipping and jumping. It's very Sonic the Hedgehog 3D, where you're in like in that kind of style and stuff.
It really
And I,
is. It
yeah, and I think I like the way that at points like when they do the camera and they just show you moving and then it goes right behind you again and you're moving there. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, Zanzo's level, the volcano, like you like in
Oh
this
yeah.
heated area. I thought those was the kind of like the best levels because a it's a fire level, of course, but it was easier to get through. You actually don't have to fight Zanzo in this level.
That was really creative. Because I was after I thought the wrestler character, I believe was it
Rekka.
Rekka, yeah. After I fought her, I you sort of get like into a rhythm where it kind of tricks your brain into thinking, okay, this is just going to be a routine game where you play through the level and then you fight a boss, and that sort of flipped everything on its head because like when you're going through the volcano and everything, it felt like it was culminating into that moment where, of course, you were going to have to fight a routine boss at the end. But then
Yes.
it turns out you didn't have to fight him at all. It was like it led up to, instead of like the big payoff being a big fight, it led up to the big payoff being a huge joke. And I liked that. It felt original. It felt fresh. It felt like they actually had like a thought process behind like, hey, let's do something just a little bit different to make this one part of our game stand out. And I like that touch.
Yes. So for to let everybody know with Zenzo chapter 3 and chapter 4 is that you have to go in his research department and destroy stuff so that his budget will fall down. And uh as you are destroying stuff, his budget keeps going down, and when you get to him and he's about to get powered up and you're thinking you're having this final battle, but you see his money go down and he ends up being defeated by being defunded. And
Hmm.
it's this joke where you just see him land on the ground with light spotlight hitting him, and it just says on the word defunded. So he's defeated that way. So you get out your guitar and then just smack him and hit them, and then you collect this key. But his key slips through your hand and hits cinnamon and falls down.
You know, I know we're gonna talk about like some of the story elements in a little bit, but like
Mhm.
this moment, and I kind of want to allude to this later in the show as well. You know, this moment really made me feel like this whole like everything about this game kind of felt almost like the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the
Yes.
comedy, the way they tell a story, the comedy, the characters even themselves. Like you could have told me like the same character Chai was Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I would have completely believed you. Like I would have
Mhm.
been like, okay, I get that completely because he is very much like Sokka, and like everyone in this show kind of acts almost like a Avatar character, so to speak, and I love it. I don't think that's a knock against it that they kind of like imitated that like comedy style because it absolutely works in this.
Yes. So there is a level you actually get to a point where things a little bit like kind of slow down and everything. I think it's when you meet Corsica and she like knocks you out. She hits you and everything.
Mhm.
And then you end up in the dream and everybody's snapping.
That was so cool. Hmm.
That was yes, and then you see his cat, or you see Peppermint's cat coming around doing like this sexy dance and everything.
Hmm.
And it was kind of cool to see that, and it was just like telling him to wake up. You're thinking you're back at the hideout, but you're actually, I think you're in jail when you wake up.
Yeah, you are. You are, and like it's also like I don't want to get too like metaphoric here, but it's also like a metaphor for him to wake up from that mentality that he can do everything by himself.
Yes,
It's like that he needs friends too. He needs these people to help him, and by proxy, him to help them as well. Like it's also kind of like that extensive metaphor, and I'm like, I loved that because it was subtle enough to where like if you really wanted to analyze it, psychoanalyze it, and really think deep and methodical about it, like you had that freedom to, but it was just that subtlety that made it feel like it was just a tinge of like good writing versus like them just basically putting him into that dream sequence, waking up and then having a funny like goof to escape out of jail. It's just they went that extra mile, and I really love that touch.
Yes. So it with speaking of her, with Corsica, her battle because and when you're before you fight Zenzo or you go through that, you learn on how to counterattack and how to
Hmm.
block and counterattack. And so there is part of it where you're counterattacking Corsica's um uh, attacks and everything, and you kind of end up knocking her out with that. When you end up beating her, you end up taking her back with you guys, and she ends up joining you. And she has the power kind of fire, in a sense, with that. Because when I think later on after you get her, you start heading towards to Mimosa, which is like a gallery and everything. She's trying to get everybody to uh, come to her concert and everything that she was getting ready to perform and stuff.
Quick
Um,
question. Maybe this is a bad misunderstanding on my part. Was her power fire, or was it like did she have I thought she had like wind power because she like eliminates
but
fire,
yeah,
right?
she had wind power. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking of the enemies that your concert is with fire.
Yeah,
So
that's
my
true.
bad,
That's true.
everybody. Because at some points that you use her to like open up secret passages, and then you're like on a timer to get through. Yeah,
That's
because
true.
you have to use her because when you get to where Mimosa's about to do her concert, uh she has these enemies that have fire that throw out. They look like firemen in a sense and everything. That was the thing about these robots, because you don't fight any humans. You fight robots. The only humans you encounter are the bosses. And what was funny about it, I was just like, this is very Mega Man-ish,
It
and
is.
I love that and everything. So I will say I kind of wish Chai had different weapons to use
And
and
so,
everything.
like, other than the guitar, or like,
Yeah.
I think they did that because, like, and not giving him weapons because, like, the weapons that he would have gotten were just the support from the other
Hmm.
people. If you think about it, like the way that Carissa used her staff, like the way she wields her staff and like basically controls the wind, that would have been your other weapon. The way like Peppermint had the blasters, that would have probably been your other weapon, and then
Yeah.
the way that like Macaroon had like his gauntlets, that would have been your final weapon. So, or like your big heavy weapon. So I think like you talked about the innovation earlier, that we talked a little bit about that debate, and I think they went the other way of like saying, hey, instead of going the traditional way, we're going to give you four weapons. We're going to be a little more innovative and give you four people who you can bring in at different times who
Yeah.
have these weapons, and we're going to make those game mechanics as well. So I think it's a I think that's the argument here. Do you go innovation or do you go with a traditional four weapons approach?
Uh, hmm. I think because it was a rhythm action, I'm thinking for the action side, and the Devil May Cry band, those kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was thinking of that because of the different weapons that you can use. But I like where you're going. I like what you mean. I was just like, yeah, that makes better sense
Yeah,
and everything, because it does to keep the gameplay simplified in a sense. To let everybody know that they kind of, if you listen to the names that we're talking about, chai, peppermint, macaron, cinnamon, uh mimosa, those kind of names are like drink slash treat names. If you
mm-hmm.
think about it, chai is a tea, peppermint is a flavor but also like a candy, macaron is a candy, cinnamon is a spice, mimosa, is kind of fashionable adult beverage, I would say that, and
Yeah,
everything. And kale is kind of like, even no, not kale. I'm sorry, Vale, Vale, Roxanne, Rekka, Zanzo, and Rockfort. Those are mostly just like boss names. Just regular names for people and everything. So
I
oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, and to take it a little deeper, because like, and this is how my mind works. I always think on a deeper level. It's not just that they're beverage names; they're also song names, and that fits the theme of the music of like Hi-Fi Rush being a very music sound, rhythm beat kind of thing. Each one of these are names of songs as well.
Yes. And speaking of music, the game's original soundtrack was created by former Konami composer Suichi Kobori, former Capcom composer Ryo Uratani, and Tango Gameworks sound designer Masatoshi Yangai. Hi-Fi Rush uses 10 licensed music tracks throughout the story. Lonely Boy by the Black Keys, 1 Million and The Perfect Drug by Nine Inch Nails, Free Radicals by The Flaming Lips, Inazawa Chainsaw by Number Girl, Fast as You Can by Fiona Apple, Invaders Must Die by The Prodigy, Wolfgang's Fifth Symphony by Wolfgang Gartner, Whirling by The Droid Formidable, and Honesty by Zwan. Bethesda Software's also created an official Spotify playlist with most of these tracks. Now, I gotta say, it was, I think, chapter 8 or chapter 9, you was kind of making your way to I think it's 1 million
Hmm.
that playing almost like around there. It's like a girl, a female singer. These tracks, they were banging.
There
And
were
I
some
was just
good
like,
ones.
some really good ones. Yeah.
They were really good. There are some I feel like were better than others, of course, but like
Mhm.
I do feel like a lot of these soundtracks were really good. I do almost wish they would have had like a little more licensed music here, and I understand
Yeah.
why they didn't, but like I almost wish they would have gone that extra mile and maybe given us some more licensed music of like some other cool renowned bands, especially of like I'm a 90s kid, so I would have loved to see like some early 2000s kind of bands, especially in that like punk genre that's very akin to like Nine Inch Nails and the Black Keys and such like that. I almost would have
Yes.
loved to see if we got like some Bowling for Soup here, maybe some Linkin Park here. I
Ooh.
think. Oh, can you imagine having like Linkin Park in this? But like,
Oh,
yeah, but
yes.
that's not to that's not to dissuade like and disrespect the music that was in this game. It was really good music. I just almost wish we would have got that just a little bit more. I wish they would have went a little harder, you know?
Yes. Well, let's get into the story. Chai, a 25-year-old man with a disabled right arm and a dream to become a rock star, arrives at the Vandelay Technologies campus to volunteer for Project Armstrong, a test program for cybernetic limb replacement. Unaware to Chai, the CEO, Kel Vandelay, secretly designates Chai to be a garbage collector for the company's waste management. As Chai's limb replacement process is about to begin, Kale throws away Chai's music player, which accidentally falls into Chai's chest and embedded with it during the process, causing Chai to feel a musical connection with his surroundings. As a result of the accident caused by Kale's carelessness, Chai is labeled a defect and the facility's robot security forces pursue him. Chai discovers his new arm can deploy electromagnetic grabber stick, originally meant for garbage collecting, which he uses to fashion a guitar-like weapon. As he searches for a way to escape, he encounters a robotic cat named 808. He is aided by an unseen ally, Peppermint, who communicates through the robotic cat and is guided to her hideout. There, she offers to help Chai escape if he agrees to help her investigate a conspiracy behind Project Armstrong. The two form a reluctant alliance. And now, this next paragraph is kind of what the main game for the plot is. Soon, Chai helps Peppermint gain access to a Vendelay executive computer and learn about Spectra, an AI program that uses Vendelay's cybernetic implants as a backdoor for mind control. The two hatch a plan to access and shut down Spectra by securing pass keys from each of the company's executives, including Kale. As they pursue their targets, they recruit more allies, including the disgruntled and nervous former head of R&D, Macaron, and his blunt psychology robot partner, Cinnamon. And eventually, Vandelay security chief, Corsica, after Kel makes an attempt on her life for discovering Spectra's true nature. While exploring the Museum of Vandelay Technologies, Peppermint reveals that she is Kel's sister. She
Mhm.
explains that their mother, Vandellay's founder Roxanne, encouraged her to leave home and find her own path, but Peppermint returned after Chaos as sent to CEO because she sensed something was wrong. Um, so I'm going to save the ending for last because um, when you find out that uh, those two were brother and sister, you end up finding out more that Roxanne, who is their mother, is still alive. And everything. But you end up getting captured because with Spectra, with the mind control, Vale used it on, Kale used it on his mother.
Some
And then
cold
you
blooded
end
stuff.
exactly, and so you end up getting trapped in this box, and you kind of have to find the strength within you as Chai to break everybody free, and then start going through. And I think that's when you encounter Rockford, I think, or it may be at the Rockford, um, with it,
Hmm.
because Rockford is a vertical level, because you have to go up to get to his office to fight him and everything.
Yeah. Hmm.
And with Rockford, he turns into this wolf. And if you
That
think
was
of
so
the
cool.
Yeah, and if you think of the wolf of Wall Street, money hungry and everything,
Hmm.
that's kind of what he turns into. And with that fight, you kind of uh, start knocking his energy down to stun him and get him turned back into his regular self, and then you still end up finding him more. It has this Beautiful Joe aesthetic because in Beautiful Joe you end up fighting these big monstrosities at times for bosses and stuff. And just the way that the animation is looking with the cell shaded kind of style to it, uh, uh, it reminds you of Beautiful Joe when you're fighting him and
It really
everything.
does. It really does. Is that one of your favorite boss fights?
Um, Actually, to tell you the truth, Corsicus was mine.
Oh, you like the parry system a lot then,
Ye- Uh,
because
when it works.
okay, that's exactly what I was about to say. I'm like, because bruh, I was getting like very like I guess you say frustrated with that fight because the parry system sometimes would not work like I would want it to.
Yes,
The timing is either so meticulous or there's just a hair delay, and it always would cause me to like get a little frustrated because you would have to repeat those patterns over and over again until you got it absolutely almost 100% correct.
yes. And with the parry system, everybody, they showed these kind of electric buffs, and it has these timing. So when it goes to executing them, you have to match them. So it'd be like da 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 da, and you just have to time it with the button presses and everything. And so
Yeah, so
I kind of go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, it's like that big circle where there's two circles and that bigger outside circle gets smaller and you have to time it perfectly when it matches that perfectly little circle, that smaller
Yes,
circle. And that's the timing mechanic he was referring to when he laid down that dope beat just a second ago.
yes. So um, with that what did you actually think of the story before we get into the ending, like with the mind control and everything?
I thought it was cool. I think they could have went a little harder as far as like showing how dangerous the mind control could actually be because we only really got small stints of like the potential around it. And it was like almost like in a joking manner when they were like showing Chai how bad that thing could be. You know, like when they
Yeah.
used it on Chai. I'm like we never really got to see how diabolical his plot actually was or like it was of course implied through like everything that he was saying that he was going to use it for nefarious like corporate greed reasons, but like we never got to actually see it because like the majority of the enemies you always face are robots.
Right.
So other than the mom and Chai, like we never got to actually see the mind control in effect. So that kind of felt a little lackluster. It kind of felt like it's a threat, but without knowing why or like getting to see it be a threat, it's just like
Mm.
words that were spoken. But like other than that, I love the story. I think the characters are charming. I think the environments are really cool. I think like I loved the way that like each of the characters felt like they had familiar tropes that we've seen in not just video games, but also like I said earlier, the Last Airbender. We've seen that in like animation and TV shows and such like that. But the characters still felt fun. They still felt fresh, and overall, I thought this story is like well worth the $40, and also like I can't wait to see these guys again. Like I think that's the big takeaway here. I can't wait to see what if they were to do a sequel, I'd be lining up for it because like they made me fall in love with these side characters and Chai.
You know they're gonna have to keep Lucille. She's like the
Ah, yeah.
secretary, and she was
Hmm.
just like next. Like she's a robot with sass, but her
Hmm.
sass is dry, and she's just like next. Do you think I care? Go through the door. And
Hmm.
it's just like who programmed her to be this way, and stuff. It did like kind of because the comic relief it kind of like the cleaners is the little small robots who are doing the errands like carrying the boxes. They be like, oh no, my
Hmm.
floor is wet, my thing is messed up in there, and it's just like they know that they just finished the whole room, and you bust through the wall, and you're having this big fight, and it's just messing up, and it's just like, oh goodness, and it's just so funny. I'm just like, they don't treat these robots with no respect, but they're programmed to keep the business clean or running and do all of that and stuff. So it's very interesting with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
you know what it felt like to me is like it felt like the whoever created this either felt like they were a late '80s kid or early '90s kid because like
mhm.
it felt like Saturday morning cartoons from that kind of era of like it felt like very much what you would see from like a Darkwing Duck or like a Tailspin, like the
Yeah,
comedy stylings, and then like you combine that with like the secretary that you were mentioning. What was her name again? The secretary you were just talking
Lucille.
about? Lucille.
Lucille.
Lucille is the exact same character from Monsters Inc. Where have you seen Monsters Inc?
Yes.
Okay, there's like a character, she's the secretary also, like the who ends up becoming the undercover agent, where she's like always like, "Don't forget your paperwork, Mr. Lebowski," and such like that. And she has like a dry, very sense of humor. And he's
Uh,
like, "You're looking very lovely today," and she's just like, don't forget your paperwork. It's like that exact same character. I love it though. I absolutely love it.
yes. Well, right, we're gonna jump into the end part of the game. So it is spoiler territory. If you haven't played the game, I do recommend giving this game a try. But if you want to continue to listen, we're spoiling the part now. Um, as the group pursue Kale, their final target, they encounter Roxanne, but learn she is being controlled by Kale. Kale traps the group and explains that he plans to use Project Armstrong to control users' purchasing habits. Chai frees himself and his allies from the trap and battles Kale. With Kale defeated, they shut down Spectra and frees Roxanne from his control. Afterwards, Roxanne is reinstated as CEO of Vendalay Technologies. Peppermint and Chai are offered jobs within the company, and Macron and Corsica regained their old jobs. Later, Chai and his friends gather to look at the sunset while he practices playing guitar so that he could have a fallback career. Um, Events after the main story reveals that Spectra has begun restarting by itself, with the AI appearing to be a replica of Kale. However, Spectra is unexpectedly shut down after a cleaning robot accidentally pulls the power plug. Chai declares the problem solved and leaves a warning note not to touch the plug.
Somebody's gonna plug that up in the sequel. Somebody.
Right. So that's how Hi-Fi Rush is and everything. I hated that final battle
Oh yeah,
against
for
Kale.
sure. For
I
sure.
I did that last battle about 20 times.
I can understand. It is very tedious too. And I don't like it almost demands perfection in its controls where
Yes.
we spoke about it earlier, like this is an imperfect game.
Yes. And to let everybody know, there are special moves and abilities that you can buy, chips that you can acquire to make yourself powerful. I didn't really bother with a lot of that. It's just like once I kind of like got all the basic moves, the special moves that I was supposed to do, like button wise for combat. Everything else I just didn't care for.
Oh, you're different than me. Like I didn't buy very many special moves at all. I only bought the combos for the most part.
Yeah,
Like
I
those action, like the Devil May Cry style combos,
yes,
like that's what I kind of focused on. And like after I just did that, I just like I would find a lot of the like the health upgrades and the what is the other ones, the power boost upgrades.
hmm
I would find a lot of those like just natively, like while I was exploring, and that kind of like natively like upgraded my health and my like and that amplifying meter. So I didn't really feel the need or was compelled to actually buy those chips.
yeah. I did try to do a lot of air combos because I know
Hmm.
I could fight them in the air and not be touched. And so just whipping around with the grappling hook, and I didn't like the big bosses because I mean not the big bosses, like the big enemies, because they took forever to get through. And I'm just like, I gotta keep switching characters around to fight them and everything. But it is what it is. Yeah, that fight against Kale, I understand it's supposed to be challenging, but it was so long and a lot of times unfair. I'm like, no, no, oh, I gotta do this again. And even if you got to a certain point, if you die, you have to redo the whole fight from the beginning. It's very Sony in the fact, because like Sony games is like, if you get to the last part of that fight and you die, you have to restart it all over again. I'm like, why? If you're gonna give me a fight that enemy has like 3 or 4 different changes or health bars, please, for the love of everything, if I defeat them and you give me a cutscene, make that as a checkpoint. Be fair with your checkpoints, because you just spent like 10 minutes in a fight, and now you got to spend another 10, that same 10 minutes or even longer, trying to get back to where you was at. Like,
Yeah,
who
that's a bit
wants to
rough.
deal that?
That can be a bit rough if I'm being honest. That part can be a bit rough, but like it is one of those things to where I'm like, I think that's a older trope that we're seeing kind of slowly phase out in video games, especially
Hmm.
like you mentioned Sony. Well, like God of War kind of has like settings to where you can change that setting to where like you can say like, hey, do you want boss checkpoints as well? And like it basically has like when you get to a certain point, like it'll automatically install like a 3/4 checkpoint or halfway there checkpoint. You just have to make it
Yes.
to that point. So I do think this is, like I said though, this is like an amalgamation of a whole bunch of like different tropes from like the like the Xbox 360 era and the PS4 era, but like done in a next gen kind of way. So
Yes.
I feel like that's a kind of an aspect that kind of is very much from that PS3 Xbox 360 era kind of like feature that will hopefully go away if they make a sequel.
Yes. So everybody, that's pretty much it. High Five Rush. Uh, any other thoughts, Sebastian?
I think this is a great game. I don't necessarily think this is going to be game of the year, but I don't. I think we are leaning towards a stacked rest of the year when it comes to game of the year
Hmm.
contention. I do think this is a surprise of the year, probably. Like if we had a category for that, I think it would be high up there. I like everything about this. I want to say shout out to the how diverse this game is. By the way, it has some really good
Yes.
representation of a lot of different people of different backgrounds and such. I love as a chocolate person, I loved macaroon, and I loved seeing like a black man in a good supporting role in this game, and I think they really did really cool representation with hair and different things about like different like features about him that made him feel very much black without necessarily being a over the top stereotype of us.
Yeah.
So shout out to that. And outside of that, though, I think this is a really good game. I think there are elements that kind of overstay their welcome, and it does get repetitive, especially when you're going to like platform to platform, and then it makes you stop like every 3 platforms just to fight like 3 waves of enemies over and over
Yes.
again. That kind of gets a little repetitive, but other than that, fine game. What do you think?
I really did enjoy this game. I think like if I had to rate it and everything, I would definitely give it like a 9. Um,
Oh wow.
with this, like I high production, great animation. Um, it really a lot of people just like yes, it has that Insomniac feel, which did ended up leading to people be like, man, I need to go check out Sunset Overdrive because Sunset Overdrive got dragged because it was a Insomnia game on Xbox. It had nothing to do with the game itself. It's just that people didn't like Insomnia making the game outside of PlayStation. And so they just dragged that game for no apparent reason. But then people started looking at it and it started reminding them of that game. And people ended up started playing Sunset Overdrive and understand how good that game was and everything. So I love the animation. I love that Microsoft allowed them to tell this I would say kind of this teen story. And letting Tango Works bring something different that I could actually say this only belongs on Microsoft. This doesn't belong on any other platform. Like I don't need Nintendo to imitate the style or try to be inspired to make a game out of it. I don't even need Sony to do that. I literally feel like this is something nice, fresh as an IP from not only Tango Works and ZeniMax, but just from Microsoft itself. It's nothing that's too adult or anything. I think it's something that anybody could grab and play and learn. And you don't have to feel punished that you're not on rhythm, that you're not on beat. So I definitely would say that it earns all the ratings. I will say that I've kind of feel like it does deserve a Game of the Year nomination because not only is it a new IP, it really speaks that this is what Microsoft needs more of. They need more of a game like this and not try to have a big cinematic AAA experience like all the time. I think they just needed something literally low key that people could go in and be like, yeah, this definitely speaks Microsoft and only Microsoft.
Yeah, I think you made some good points there. The reason why I'm not giving this like a game of the year like nod this
Mhm.
early on in the year is because like I right now if the year was to end, this would have my vote for game of the year. In
Mhm.
the March that we're recording this time frame, this would be my game of the year. But like if I'm looking at the landscape of what's to come, and you got Tears of the Kingdom, you got like you got Jedi Survivor, you also have Spider-Man, you have Starfield, you have I don't think this is going to be anywhere near my game of the year list, but you have Forza, but like you have so many different banger after banger after banger
Yes.
games that I do think this is going to get nominations at the Game of the Year awards. I do think it,
Yes.
but I don't think it's going to be for Game of the Year. I think it's going to be for like best music. I think it might be for best art. I think
Mhm.
it's just going to win awards. I don't think it'll be for Game of the Year though.
I would laugh if this is the best family friendly game at the Game
I can see
Awards.
that. I can see that. But then again, it's got to go up against other Nintendo games like at that point. It's got to go up
And
against
that's I still feel like that category is so unfair.
it's basically the Nintendo categories. It
Well,
really is.
and that's the thing about it. And this is for another show discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
I really feel like it's unfair and kind of stereotypical, and in a way, kind of games are not very discriminatory and stuff, but it's unfair in the fact that why is this only the Nintendo category when Nintendo kind of have released a lot of games in different genres that should be able to fit. And with the Game Awards, they go to the most popular stuff or the big AAA experience and not look at games like Fire Emblem Three Houses or look at Xenoblade or look at like some
Hold
like
on,
Breath of the Wild.
Xenoblade got nominated for Game of the Year though.
It did.
Yeah.
It did, but this is the first time. This is the last year was the first year that majority of a lot of Nintendo games did get represent right. But why? But I'm like, why is not that like not every year ever since Switch came out that they have hit different milestones in genres telling different stories? Why is it just like, oh, it's only these third party or first party games from Microsoft and Sony, and then here's this one category for Nintendo, and we're gonna move on.
Here's I think my explanation, and I'll try to be brief with this. Is like I think a lot of people look for in a the end of the year awards, so to speak,
Hmm.
whether it be the Game Awards or any other outlet. I do think a lot of people look for innovation, but they also look for what do you do in storytelling, and I think that's where you and I might have disagreements and opinions though, but like I don't. Besides Xenoblade and besides Fire Emblem Three Houses, I think there is a gaping hole in Nintendo's portfolio with games that have big, emphatic stories. What I
Hmm.
don't. I'm not saying they don't have stories. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you. I don't want the Nintendo PAL fans to come at me here, but like I I do think there are levels to this. Like I think like when you look at stories that could be made into movies, like it seems like Mario is a exception to the rule where like we now got a Mario movie coming out to where like you can see, oh, that looks like a good movie versus like in the last 20 years you can pick a lot of Nintendo franchises and you'd be like, oh, that probably wouldn't make a good movie, but that makes a really good video game. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And but if you look at like Sony, Xbox, and I'm not, and even third party stuff like Red Dead Redemption 2, like they could put Red Dead Redemption 2 as a movie to as it might not be for you, but like they could put that as a movie made by like Quentin Tarantino, put
Hmm.
Jamie Foxx in it. Like I'm casting the whole movie but here, but like if they can make a movie like that and people are going to like pay to go see that type of movie. Whereas if you put like um Kirby and the like Kirby's Dreamlight or something to that nature. It's like no one. I think you have a hard time getting people to the theaters to see that, and I think that's where like in the Game Awards, I do think narratives matter, and I do also think like narratives matter, and it's also innovation, and that's where you also see like the line there, whereas like Mario Odyssey got a Game of the Year nomination, and I think that year it didn't win because it went up against Zelda, and
Yeah.
those two were the front runners though. If you look at it, so I think Nintendo does well. I just think I really believe that it's been a while since Nintendo made a Game of the Year like front runner to where you like they made a game to where you're like instantly look at that and you go like that's probably going to win Game of the Year, or at least that's probably going to be runner up. Like I don't think they've made a game since Mario Odyssey or or Zelda Breath of the Wild that most people thought that's a legit like hands down that's probably going to win the game of the year. I think they made I think they made contenders, but in sports contenders is different than being a championship contender.
And I sometimes and we're gonna end. We're gonna wrap
Yeah,
this up.
for
So this is
sure.
kind of like bonus content for everybody. I think with the thing about it is like sometimes with Nintendo, it's just that yeah, it may be a contender. It may not be not. It may not even be Game of the Year. But sometimes people don't remember the Game of the Year, and the other games that Nintendo have made is continually being played. Like oh. Elder, not Elder. I won't use Elder Ring or
Yeah,
something.
because
Oh,
people
God of
playing
War.
they'll play that. Yeah.
Right. Oh, God of War has been, has won, and it beat out this game that Nintendo. But then you look at social media, just on Twitter itself, like, why is everybody still playing this game from this year, and no one is speaking about that Game of the Year talk?
I think like I think you made a good point. I think that's also like we talked about the argument of innovation versus traditional games as well, but
Mm,
there's also like that same argument of like longevity and everyday gameplay versus memorable moments and big moments that stick with you. Whereas like I think there is a like Mario not even Mario. Let's use Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing
yes.
New Horizons is a game people can pick up and play every single day. And that game is a longevity game. It's not like a game to where you're playing that for a 16-hour story and that story is just really going to be memorable. It's like really going to be like impactful. You're playing Mario Kart, you're playing like Mario Kart or Animal Crossing just for like the funness of it, the pick up and play value of it, versus like God of War and the way like Kratos and Atreus like interact. I think about that and it still makes me feel that emotion of like the first time I played that game. Like I can look at that. I can look at Uncharted, like any of the Uncharted games, especially 4, and I can still kind of tear up a little bit when when like Nathan Drake and his brother have that reunion after everything that's going on between them, and it's like when like Nathan sees his brother for the first time after all these years that he thought was dead, and like legitimately you can see him choking up, and you feel that emotions because like Nathan for so long. It's that that level of storytelling and that the way they make you feel. It's that like the impact versus longevity. And I think they're like two sides of the same coin, because like you can be a gamer who likes longevity or a gamer who likes impact, or you can be a gamer who can flip a coin and like whatever it lands on is whatever your mood is that day, and you like both of them. But I think when people think of like at the end of the year, when they think of what game had the biggest moments, I think it always leans towards what game made me feel actually made me feel in the most impactful way possible. And I think that's the argument there.
Well, everybody, that has been the first episode of Spoiled Us, kind of with some bonus discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
With that, everybody, we will let you know what our next game is going to be soon. So if you would like to know about that, you can hit us up on Twitter hit us up on not Twitter, on our Discord for Boss Rush Media. And check us out on Twitter at Boss Rush Media on Twitter. With that, everybody, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Nintendo Expansion Pass is part of Nintendo Power Block and is a product of Boss Rush Media LLC. The show is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio, and is hosted by me, Edward Varnell. My co-host is Corey Derrick. You can find Corey at I am Corey in HD on Twitter and Instagram, as well as hosting the Boss Rush Podcast and Tower Casuals, the Destiny Podcast. Follow Expansion Pass as part of Nintendo Power Block and on all social media platforms at Power Block Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.